What is going on, YouTube? This is Jim, back with another video, and today we're taking a look at Injustice 2. Now, I was a pretty big fan of the original Injustice, although I did get onto the bandwagon very, very late. I didn't get on until the Ultimate Edition came out for PlayStation 4. By then, the game had been out for a very long time, so I was spoiled. I got all the DLC, I got all the characters, I played through the story, I dabbled a little bit online, not too much, and I moved on. But I did enjoy the combat. I particularly enjoyed the story, something I didn't think that I would. But actually, a fighting game could have a very good story. And here we are with Injustice 2. And I'm on day one. It's launched. This thing came out, this week, and here I am, playing it finally, looking through it, and I wanted to put up a video because I'll probably be doing a few, and that's a new format I've been doing on my channel where I talk about things a little bit in more depth with some gameplay footage in the background and just kind of give you guys my overall thoughts on what I've seen. I did that with the Quake video. I really enjoyed doing that, and I don't see why I'm going to stop anytime soon. So new format's going to be a little longer videos. You're going to see some gameplay. You're going to get to hear me ramble. I think it's going to be good for everyone. Now, what I'm going to play through first is actually the tutorial. And I think the tutorial is a really good place to start in this game because looking at that control scheme with that controller doesn't look like there's much going on in the game. You have very basic attacks, light, medium, heavy. You got a throw. You get your superpower, a character power, and a stance. And then interaction, because this game does support those interactive environments where you can jump off walls or throw objects at people, whatever. However, as you will see as I progress through this tutorial, I was playing as Batman fighting against Superman. This game gets exceptionally difficult very, very rapidly. And I think most of us, I would say the layman in the fighting world, that is definitely me, somebody who knows how to press buttons in sequence for the most part, still is going to have a very difficult time with some of these really advanced combos. But that's okay because I think this game works somewhat as a button masher. And I think that the combos are fluid enough. And some of the very basic combos are your traditional down forward attack or back down or something like that, where you're able to pull off some decent moves without just continuously punching and doing like weird jumps and throws. Outside of that, when you start getting into juggling and canceling combos, I actually could not figure it out. I actually skipped this part of the tutorial because it just didn't make any sense to me, and I just dived into the single player game. You'll see as I kind of play through it, you can imagine my frustration as I'm doing what I think the game is telling me to do over and over and over again, and it does not work. But for the simple stuff, blocking, punching, throwing, interacting, you're going to have a blast with this game because it looks gorgeous. And I hope my capture card does it well. I'm using my Elgato HD60, running at 1080p, 60 frames a second. It's gorgeous. This game, the thing that impresses me most about this game's graphics, and I will get into some of the single-player story after the tutorial is done, is the facial animations on these characters is unlike anything I've ever seen before. Now, I always thought that LA Noire was really the staple of character or facial animations and characters, which is odd because it's an older game. There's been a lot of games that have come out since then that just haven't really captured emotion of a character. And I think Injustice 2 nails that. And it is so, the way their eyes open, the way they move their mouth, it is so lifelike, it is so realistic. I really haven't seen anything like it before. And it's amazing that you think a fighting game of all things would really be able to pull that off. But when you look at the character movement and how fluid everything is, it makes sense that they would just, go overboard on everything. So why not make a great face? Why not just continue that? Now, there has been some criticism about some of the character movement and that the characters are a little too fluid. They're constantly moving their hands, waving around, a lot of flowing capes, a lot of kind of busy, overly busy actions. And I kind of agree a little bit. There is some sway. Some of the punches are a little odd. I don't feel like there's a lot of power in some of the punches. There's a lot of YouTube videos that people really get into a lot more deep dive than I'm even going to talk about. But I do have to agree with some of that criticism. I feel sometimes, especially with Batman, some of his attacks aren't all that powerful. And I laugh like, boy, if he did that in like a real fight, he would get his ass kicked. Thankfully, the game is so quick, you're never going to just punch once and just stop. You're going to constantly be running around like a hyena, jumping, punching, flipping, just grabbing, throwing everything. So you're not going to really notice if a movement here or there doesn't look very powerful. Now, what you guys see I'm working on right now is the environmental interactions, and I'm having a hard time figuring out what they want me to do. They actually want me to hit R1 to engage my environmental interaction, and then immediately hit X. And that's going to basically cancel that interaction, and it's going to turn into an attack. And that's something that's very, very prevalent in this game as I start to look at more advanced combos where you're doing a lot of feints, where you start something but you actually go into something else. Now, people who are really into the fighting game and mechanics and counting frames and damage per second and all of that sort of stuff, they're probably going to appreciate that a lot more than I am. I don't understand a lot of that, but it works. It's there. During your button mashing, you're probably going to do something really cool, and it's going to be okay. Level transitions make their return as well. Here you see Batman just pummeling Superman into an entirely new area of the map, which I've always loved in these games. This isn't anything particularly new, where you have these really intricate level transitions where the characters fight from part to part, and each area has its own environmental, area, like different things to interact with in each environment. So if you really get an enemy on the ropes, you could probably throw them around a little bit and check out some of the other parts of the level. I don't know how many there are. This one looks like there's only 2. Looks like you fight in the, out in the street, and then you somehow knock your way into the theater and then back out into the street. There may be more, I'm not entirely sure, but it is really, really rewarding when you're playing and you get somebody up against a corner and you nail them, and it's just 5 seconds of their character just getting beat and slammed into everything. That is really, really cool. They have combos in the game just like every other fighting game. You could start doing, this is where the tutorial starts to take a turn a little bit, and more of the advanced stuff. Up until now it's like press this to punch, press this to do this, grab, throw, whatever. But this is where it starts to actually get a little bit more advanced. Every animation in this game, like I said, some of them are a little wonky, but the throws in particular and their super moves, that's when your meter is entirely full and you do something over the top, are amazing. Like the fact that Batman to throw actually grabs someone, goes flying up in the air with his grapple gun, and then comes down to suplex somebody and smash their face into the street. That is really, really cool, and I really like that. I think that's over the top, and I appreciate that. I really like how that mechanic works, and it really feels rewarding when you execute a throw, because it really does pause the action for a couple seconds as you watch this animation unfold. Now, what they're trying to show me here is that you can actually do these counter throws. As you can see, most likely you're going to either throw or get thrown. There is a seldom chance that you're actually going to be able to time a throw exactly with another opponent's throw and be able to pull off this, throw, escape throw kind of thing. But again, for the layman, you're probably not going to be anticipating this. If you have the opportunity to take the attack, you're going to do it. You're not going to stand there and say, oh, I think he's going to throw me. I better press, L1 immediately. When he's throwing his startup, I'll just stand here and wait a few seconds. Because you could see how many times it takes me to get this right. I can't figure this out because it's like either I do it too slow and I get thrown, or I do it too fast and I throw him. And the reward of actually pulling off an escape throw isn't really that great. You just kind of push him back. Now, maybe some of the advanced fighters are going to say, oh, well, he opens himself up to a heavy combo juggler, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe that's true. I can't say. I could say from my perspective, when I was playing the single player and working my way through the story, which I'm not through remotely close, by the way, but just kind of dabbling around with the game, I wasn't waiting for that to happen. I just did it. And the nice thing, as I also mentioned, is you can see now where you have these special moves that are unique to each character, but they're very simple button presses. And that works out very, very well. So I like this game. I like what NetherRealm's done with it. And I'm really curious to see. I haven't dabbled too much into the DLC, and maybe some of these questions have been answered. I don't know. This is just my first impression of this. what I loved about the original Injustice was that they incorporated other variants of characters into their universe. And I know they're going to do that, right? I mean, I know you're going to have like Torchlight Batman, or I don't know, Red Sun Superman, whatever it happens to be. There's tons of variants out there. And all it is a cosmetic. It's a skin. So it's easy for them to do because it's not like it's really going to change fundamentally any of the mechanics. It's not like, you know, White Batman, you know, when it's Bruce Wayne's dad, you know, Thomas Wayne. It's not like he's going to punch differently than normal Batman, right? I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. But what I liked about the original Injustice was that they incorporated some of the stuff from the movie or the TV universe. So my beloved Stephen Amell playing Arrow. And keep in mind, when the original Injustice came out, Arrow was really, really good. You know, we had Deathstroke, and we had, you know, when he was killing people, and, you know, Tommy died, and this, you know, Malcolm Merlin and all this. It was such a good show. It's kind of slipped off from then, but they incorporated him into the game, and that was so neat. And now that the DC universe is really starting to expand, obviously with the Ben Affleck Batman movie, with the Batman vs Superman, with the TV shows, with you know, all the TV shows you have, you know, Flash, you have Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl. I would love to see those skins make it into the game. And maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe that's already in here and I just haven't unlocked it yet. But playing as Grant Gustin, for example, instead of, I don't know, whoever the Flash is. I mean, Barry Allen obviously is the Flash, but whatever they decided to make him look like. But to play as the actor who plays him on TV would be insane, and that'd be so much fun. And I think it'd be simple enough to do. So I hope that comes back into this game. If it's already there, that's amazing. I can't wait to unlock it. That would be really, really cool. There are a slew of characters, speaking of characters in this game. I don't even know all of them. Some of them I looked through. I didn't even understand who they were. A lot of the villains I don't know. Maybe, you know, super comic book fans are going to really appreciate this and say, oh my God, I can't believe they included this guy. I know the basic staple, you know, the main guys. But there's a lot of them in here, and I'm like, I have no idea who this is, but pretty cool. And it's tons of characters. I don't think you could go wrong with that. You know, the big concern always has been with games, and I talked about this in my Quake video. The big concern has always been, you know, when there's these multiple characters coming out, if they do a good enough job balancing them. But I feel like in this case, they probably do a pretty good job. And what I particularly like about this is, in the little bit I've played through the story and multiplayer, just, you know, against the computer dorking around, characters do handle significantly different from each other. So you're going to have enough characters to kind of figure out exactly what your preference is, you know, what you're mostly into. So I think that's really, really good. I'm going to jump ahead slightly in the movie and in this video here because this is where I just totally lose my mind with these special combo attacks. It drives me bananas. And we're just going to dive right into the story so I can talk to you guys a little bit about the facial animations and a little bit about the character customization. So let's check that out now. All right, I jumped ahead a little bit. This is still the opening trailer, or the opening cinematic, rather. This is where Supergirl and Superman are escaping the planet. The planet blows up, and they fly off in outer space. But what I wanted to show about this was the cinematics. They are so good. It's like a movie, and it doesn't, you know, the fighting part doesn't really take away, like, from any of this, but this could totally be like an independent, like a cartoon, if they just acted this out and they just did like a very quick brief fight. Just the cinematics in between are so well done, and they're so precise. They really get to very specific points very quickly. But look at this facial animation. This is insane. Bruce, the way his lips move, the way his jaws kind of like move around when he's forming the O with his mouth, and the way his eyes open and close. You don't see this level of facial animation anywhere. I am absolutely blown away by this. This is such a good job. So when you play through the story, you're going to start off the story as Batman. And Batman's, you know, flying around and doing his thing. And you're going to start fighting all the various villains. This is pretty much a continuation. I mean, there is a time gap between this and Injustice 1 and Injustice 2, but it is a sequel. I mean, you really have to understand kind of what happened in the first one If that means go back and replay it or look at the Wikipedia page like I did, because you're gonna get kind of confused as to like who is like, why is Cyborg fighting Batman? I thought Cyborg was a good guy, and you're gonna have to kind of read through that and understand it. But that part, you know, that's gonna be something that you're gonna have to just understand going into it. But the other cool thing about this, in terms of just cosmetics and look and everything, is the new system that they've put in place. And I'm going to dive more into that in another video, but there's so much character customization that happens in this game that actually change statistics, that actually change the way your character looks. So I don't know what style of Batman this is. I don't know if this is like, you know, a famous author or a famous like artist drew this Batman, or this is unique to this. I know there's various looks on Batman. The one I'm most familiar with is Frank Miller from The Dark Knight Returns, where it's that very unique art style. But because of there being so many unique pieces of gear you can customize and change, you can really change the look of your character to kind of suit what you want it to be. So as you play through the story, you're going to unlock all of these upgrades, and then obviously as you play through the game, you're going to be able to unlock even more when you're just online multiplayer. There is a microtransaction system if you want there to be one. You don't have to use it. As far as I can tell in navigating through the system, there's nothing that's going to prevent you from unlocking everything in the game. But like Batman's belt buckle, the way his cape looks, the way his cowl looks, all this stuff, there are different upgrades for it. So you can really kind of define what you want your character to look like. And I love that customization element in it. And I think that is so cool that they're going to allow that in the game, because a lot of these skins, even though they were really cool in the original Injustice, they were what they were. There was a lot of thought that went into the character design. I'm not taking away from that, but you really didn't get that sense of customization. You really didn't get to own your fighter. And I think in this game, they've really taken great strides to say, you know what? You want to be a Batman main and you want to play only Batman, that's cool. But your Batman's going to look different than everybody else's because you're going to customize it with whatever's important to you. Forget the stats, forget all that stuff. Just you want them to look the way you want them to look. You're going to be able to do that. And I think that is so cool. And perfect timing for something that's really cool. Here is Batman's new super move. He calls the Batwing. It flies up, drops a bunch of nukes on you, and then drops you back down. I think that is so cool. What an amazing job, like I said. And I don't feel like the Ultimates are going to get old because they're a lot quicker than they were before. The first Injustice, I felt like they kind of dragged on just a little too much. Like, you kind of just wanted them to be over. And they just weren't. They just kept going and going and going. I feel like this one, it's a little bit tighter, a little more compact, cinematic, and it kind of gets to the point just a little bit quicker. So I'm appreciative of that, and I think that's really, really cool. So yeah, I think you guys are going to enjoy this game. Whether you're a fan of comic books, whether you're a fan of superheroes, whether you're a fan of fighting games, I think this game really kind of covers those bases, and there is some complexity here. Again, I can't tell you for sure whether or not this is a superior fighting game to something like a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat. Obviously, it's by the same people, but you get my point. I couldn't tell you that. But I felt like I was in control of my character at all times. I was able to pull off some of the cool moves with the Batarang. Obviously, pulling off the super and, you know, dropping huge bombs on people, and that was tons of fun as well. The level transitions work very easily, so I think you're going to have a good time with this game, regardless of what skill level you have. Man, I just can't get over this facial, the way she looks, her face. That is so insane. Anyways, you're going to have a lot of eye candy, as you can see me gushing over. I think you're going to like this game. It's Injustice 2. It's out right now. There's a couple different packages. You can get the standard game like I did. There are different levels of like upgrades with, you know, if you want all the DLC or whatever. So you kind of pick where you want your entry point to be. But I think at a minimum, you owe it to yourself to play through this game, if nothing else for the story, because it gets really, really good right after this fight. And I don't want to give any more away, so I'm going to stop it here. But check it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about the new format. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for taking some time to watch my video. As always, get out there, play some video games, play some Injustice, enjoy it. Be the Batman. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.